On today's political show, we call this Navigating Politics as a Black Person in America. We discuss North Carolina's lieutenant governor, who is actually running for governor, thinking that he's a black version of Donald Trump, overweight, wearing Depends, cussing in all kinds of language, just like Trump, except for one problem. He's got the Dave Chappelle thinking that he was a Klans member issue. Every time he wake up, his butt is black. We'll discuss that. We'll also discuss there was a Klans rally, July the 6th in Tennessee. A Klan rally in today's society. We got that. We've also got this. Trump has tried to distance himself from Project 2025 because he's got the Trump 47 agenda. We'll discuss how it's nothing but the same thing, as my grandma would say, same gravy, just warmed over, and riding with Biden. He's staying in. All that comes right now. Lamont Tyson, Life Gains. Politics of Being Black in America comes right now.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that pull. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
What's going on, everybody? You're in the building with y'all knowing, all loving, all feeling, all seeing, all powerful. Just damn all everything. Sexy as hell host. That is me, Lamont Tyson. This time, bringing you guys the vegetables you don't want to eat, but we got to keep you informed on eating it. Politics. Politics affects just about every area of your life. Oftentimes, things in society distract us from paying attention to it and how it can affect you. And the greatest weapon you have to affect those politics is who you vote for locally and nationally. And we are here to break some of those issues down. Be sure to subscribe and download the Life Gains podcast. Everything I put on this channel goes on the podcast, and everything I put on the Life Gains financial channel, which is what that channel looks like, goes on the podcast too. And on the Life Gains financial channel, I'm covering saving money, investing money, ways to save money, going on vacations and trips with your family, things you can do with your kids, and general overall ways to improve your everyday day of life. And if you want to go and support this channel, go to shoplifegains.com. We still have the Jasmine B to the 6th Power Crockett shirt. Bleach blonde, bad built, butch body is in there. Go in there and get you about 30 of them shirts, and let's make the move. I'm not alone, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me is a man who should call himself a historian, who knows not just American politics, but most of world politics way better than I do. He's the expert. He's a living legend. It's Larry in the building. What's going on, living legend?
What's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, brother. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, hanging in there. I was up there watching the Samsung Unpacked event, so it was a little disappointing, but other than that, it was, is what it is.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah.
But Larry, I hate to add more disappointment to you.
Uh-oh.
But we've got a lot of disappointing subjects we're going to have to cover. And there are things that can be done about it, but the people have just got to go and vote to get these things not to happen. Yeah. So, Larry, I'm not going to give you an option on what subject we cover first, but one of these subjects has so many sub-subjects. I will give you options on what direction we go with that. But the first thing I want to cover with you, Larry, is this right here. The KKK. In 2025, Larry, can you believe that the KKK is still alive and well? And guess what, Larry? They don't dress like this anymore, Larry. You know what the new face of the KKK looks like?
Let me see it. Oh, yeah. Well,
that right there.
I mean, we knew that.
Well, here's the thing, Larry. The KKK just recently had a rally in Tennessee, and I want you to take a listen to some of the crazy stuff they were saying and we'll rebuttal how we feel about the thoughts from this rally in Tennessee on July the 6th. Take a look at this mess, Larry.
We lay ultimate claim to the pride of our mighty nation's legacy, because without the race of men that built America, without the ironclad resolve of our ancestors, there would be no America. We are heirs to an expansive and continental homeland purchased with immeasurable sacrifice. The most natural of human truths, the pride of one's home, the instinct of who he is. Nationalism is natural. Patriotism is inevitable.
I'm laughing to keep from crying, y'all. So, Larry, I hear that, and I just think, what the hell are we doing? Like, I want to chalk this up to the miseducation of history in schools, but it's deeper than that. So, first and foremost, the people that really built this country look like me and Larry. Now, they did, and let's just throw this shit about finding the country out the window. There were people here when Christopher Columbus sailed his ass over here anyway. So let's just throw that shit out the window.
And it wasn't even Christopher Columbus that was the first ones here. I mean, if you want to talk about the first Westerners here, they were Vikings that were
exactly.
That were from Norway and the Danes. They weren't the Spanish, you know.
Thank you.
That was probably a century or so later. That's just ridiculous.
Exactly. But where does the American history book start at, Larry?
Oh, wherever they feel is convenient. I mean, it's hard to even say. You can't give us, a particular time, because they sort of change, and it just starts wherever they find it convenient for that particular political, leaning. So.
But having said those things, Larry, when you hear that kind of white nationalist talk and that type of rhetoric, and you see these people, they wasn't just marching with American flags, which is always contradictory to me. They had them damn Confederate flags too. So what are you really saying? I give the floor to the living legend. Talk to me about us having the modern day KKK looking like this, running around talking about nationalism, patriotism, and continuing the legacy the founding fathers found.
This is one thing that years and years ago, and this is, and I even hesitate to mention his name because he is such a really at this point just kind of a horrible human being. But years ago, I was listening to Alex Jones's radio program. This was probably 10, 12 years ago. Okay. And he was railing on about the current education system and the curriculum and how they were dumbing down American students in regards to history and civics. And they were saying he was saying how this was all a concerted plan to allow for leaders to come in and to become authoritarians and fascists and dictators, and to get people onto their side because they would be wholly ignorant to not just American history, but global history and geopolitics around the world. And I think a lot of these people out here that are supporting these sort of fascist, authoritarian, if I can get my words out right, authoritarian movements today, and not really understanding the horribleness of them or the brutalness of them, it sort of really comes together where it's like these people have not been educated, so they don't know. And so they support this because they think like, oh, here's this great man who's saying these things that we think sometimes, or we feel sometimes, or we've been spoon-fed at times. And they don't realize the consequences of having a government where you really don't have any say. You hope that the man in charge shares your worldview. But really,
Mhm.
ultimately, you're just as vulnerable as everyone else in the system. Like you may say, oh, the blacks and the Hispanics and the Asians and the gays and the trans and all those people, those are the ones that will have to deal with the consequences of Trump. We're going to be fine. What they don't realize is that Trump, along with all other fascist, sort of authoritarian, leaders, all they really care about is themselves and power. They give as little power as necessary to keep
Mhm.
the rest of the leadership in line. That's it.
Right.
That's the way it works. They don't just say, "Oh, I'm going to share everything with you." No, they give out as little as possible to keep people in line, and they will put out as much violence and repression as needed to keep people in line. And everybody is in the same boat, whether they realize it or not. And so, unfortunately, I think if we don't beat back, even if we do beat back Trump, I think this movement is. I think this movement on the right is such that it's going to take some years to repress it again. I mean, if you look at the elections that just happened in France, Marie Le Pen's party, which is a far right party, and often
Very far right,
racism.
like nutty, like Trump right almost.
Yeah, they just had some elections and they were just beat back. They just had a coalition of leftist parties come together and say, no, this is not what we want in this country. And we don't have those coalitions here because we only have a two-party system.
Right.
So, I mean, all I can say
And
is
and
that
and Larry,
we're going to have to come together to vote for even if you're not a big fan of the candidate, you're going to have to vote for, at the very least, against fascism. That's really what
right.
it comes down to. I mean, hopefully you can vote for the policies. Hopefully you can find something on the left in the Democratic Party and the Democratic agenda and the Democratic platform that speaks to you and you're happy about it. And you're like, okay, I agree with this. I like that. I want this. I can vote for that. But if not, sometimes you just simply have to vote against the other person. And that's, you know, as a black person in America, I mean, I hate to say it, that has been the vast majority of my votes has been voting against the other person. And I think when you're looking at fascism versus democracy, you have to vote against. And this is not the first time. If you look at what happened during, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you speak. If you look what happened during, World War II with the Nazi Party and Nazism, we were on the verge of going down that route. There was a lot of Americans, a lot of people in Congress that wanted to support the Nazi Party. There is
Thank
and
you.
was an
Thank you.
American Nazi Party. It was not
Mhm.
a certain thing
Nope.
that we were going to go down and become part of be part of the alliance, and instead of the Axis. So, we have to hold on to our roots as a democracy. We cannot give in to the idea of having a strong man, and we have to get out there and vote.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna buffer a couple of things Larry said. I'm gonna give a personal story. Then we'll go on to the next issue. First and foremost, France has a parliamentarian system, and that is why they was able to do what they were able to do. This wasn't the first vote that they took on this. This was actually the second one, but it was very resounding. Macron is back in place, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, but brother, I'm not France,
Macron.
even though Macron. My
Yeah.
name is Lamont, which means the mountain in France, but I'm very much American. So they beat back. They beat back the racist right wing take us back party. And America is more progressive than it is regressive. And I'm gonna quit calling them people the GOP right. I'm gonna just call you straight regressive. America has
Yeah.
more progressive people than we have regressive people. But the problem is, in order to get the policies put in place to represent that, Democrats and our elected officials haven't put the things in place to protect us from having the minority ruling the majority. And I'm talking about every state getting 2 senators, even though Montana's got less people in it than Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm talking about all this gerrymandering in states that have the overwhelming majority to make that margin slim. And I'm talking about going in your local elected offices, and the people that go and get on these boards and volunteer at these places are these guys that we just seen, the KKK, covering their shit up, but enacting those policies, hanging around long enough so that as things regress and regress and regress more, they can reveal themselves. Having said that, when I see the KKK, I get very, very offended. And I'm going to tell you why. The last time my grandmother was in Ada, North Carolina, living on a place called Gum Swamp Road, at a house by a bridge, no lights out there, none of that. She was babysitting her grandson. I was about 10 years old. We watching Walker, Texas Ranger, eating KFC honey barbecue wings. Boy, they was good back then. Them shits was good back then. Why is it that all of a sudden, about 10:30 that night, we hear swoons of cars circling her yard? And we see this shit right here, the KKK. Me, I'm crying. My grandma picks my fat butt up, stuffs me in a chest in the closet, and goes and gets her double-barrel shotgun Susie. All I know is I heard ying and all kinds of noises, sound like motorcycles, and I heard 2 shots of that shotgun, and next thing I know, she pulls me out. She's sweating. She's nervous. Having said all that, that was the last time my grandma lived in the country. Literally within a month, we was leaving the country. She never went back, and we are country people. So when I see people that want to come and talk this bull jive trying to make you feel like we're nationalists, and you can be patriotic. Being patriotic doesn't mean that you are just supporting one group of people. It means you support everybody. It means you love this country enough that the areas it's weak, you're trying to make it stronger. The areas where we have inequality, you're trying to make it better. That's being a patriot. Having equal justice in the law, that's being patriotic. Not making people be fearful that they're losing their position of power and go out and put on hoods and talk all this nationalistic bullshit. That's what that means when I see it. So people, it's so important. You vote blue, and you get out there and you get to be a part of what's going on in your community. Never forget, politics is in everything, whether you want to ignore it or not, whether you choose to affect how it affects you, it will affect you. Simple as that.
And local politics, I constantly keep telling people local politics are so vitally important, and you have to get out there and vote for your local politicians, because that's really where a lot of the power that affects you and a lot of the power that directly affects your life is going to be held in local politics. And the Republicans have, the Democrats too, but to a lesser extent, but the Republicans really have made a point with gerrymandering to take away a lot of the representation that various communities should have. I mean, as Lamont was saying earlier, it doesn't matter what size state you're from, you're going to get your 2 senators. So every state is going to be represented equally in that manner. But the House, which is referred to as the People's House, the representation, I don't know how many of you guys know all this, and if I'm just speaking to the choir, just bear with me. But a lot of people don't recognize that the House of Representatives, the number of representatives that go to Congress is based on the population of your state. And what happens is that these Republicans have gerrymandered the heck out of our districts so much. When I mean gerrymander, what they've done is they've drawn these crazy lines where they zig and they zag and they make loops and they do everything to create these weird shapes so they can carve out certain pockets where they feel like, okay, these are going to be people who are likely to vote for Democrats. Let's carve them out and make a district that covers a large area, but it's only going to encompass Republican voters. And they do this so that they can basically disenfranchise you. They do this so that your government becomes less representative. So you can have an area that may be like 75% black, except they create these districts in such a way that the vast majority of the voters in that district are going to be white and Republican. And and then they do things like they'll take other districts if they know there's going to be a lot of black people in the area, they'll split those districts. They'll say, okay, this pocket is going to have a whole lot. They'll do these things where they create these districts where they split those populations so those people don't have their concentrated voting power to get their representatives elected. And they do this all over the country. So what happens is our representative government becomes far less representative of the people and more representative of the power structure that's in charge at the time. And so it is vitally important that you vote. It is vitally important that you vote, not just so you can get the president that you want or the senator that you want, but so that you can get the representation that you actually deserve and the representation that's going to best serve you and your community.
Post your comments, y'all. Let us know how you feel about the modern day KKK as they look that way. Dang, get out there and vote. So, Larry, I got to talk about the crazy ass lieutenant governor of North Carolina who is running for governor, endorsed by Trump, won the primary. And as crazy as he is, this is what he looks like. Mark Robinson is a couple of steps away from winning. Now, is a couple of steps away from winning, being the governor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is very important for me to let you know that having a governor that supports what you do is just as important as voting for the president. I know some people go vote for the president, skip over the governor. That's silly because, as Larry said, politics start local and work their way up. The governor is your last line of defense in your state when stuff is going crazy. And for some reason, even though North Carolina continuously has been sending Republican senators to represent the state, we keep voting the blue governor. Don't know how it happens, but thank God it is happening. And we currently have a very, very good governor right now. But this is the lieutenant governor, and he has said and done some of the most horrible things. At first, it might have seemed like he was doing it for clickbait, but that clickbait got his ass into the lieutenant governor's house, which has no power in North Carolina. But I'm going to give Larry a list of things he's done, and I'll just let Larry mark them off as we talk about Mark Robinson. So, Larry, I'll let you pick these where we start. So, which one do you want to hear first, Larry? Which one you want to hear first? Okay. He said that we should be reciting Hitler in schools. He said that when a woman is pregnant, the baby's not hers. He's basically said Michelle Obama is a transgender. He said blacks that vote Democrat are on the slave plantation. He said Jews are the apocalypse horsemen. So which one you want me to read verbatim his quote? Because I got them all. He also said Black Panther was made by an agnostic Jew and a Marxist.
Oh, gosh.
Larry, this nigga out of control.
Wow. Let's start off. I mean, we've been talking about, there's a whole thing with women's, reproductive rights. Let's talk about the baby not being hers. Some of this stuff, I don't even want to touch the Michelle Obama stuff. That's just such a old racist trope that
I'll delete it. I'll delete Michelle Obama. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I did have a picture of our beautiful first lady, but since Larry don't want to do that, we ain't got to go over that one. We don't. But I will say this: for all my white people that have been unwilling to speak about him because you do support democracy, you are progressive, and you didn't want to come off as racist, well, you don't have to, because I'm speaking on this punk ass. And here we go. And there's one more thing he said, Larry. The LGBT community should be forced to just pee in their damn pants than to have somewhere to go.
Wow. Okay.
So let me do the reproductive one for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is a mom. Yes, and she's pregnant, but nobody knows the situation of this woman's pregnancy. You don't know if it's a high risk pregnancy. You don't know if this was a bad word that starts with an R. Hopefully, it's not because it looks like she's happy. But you don't know the conditions of her body. It is still her body. This man said, and I quote, here's the quote: once a woman is pregnant, it is not her body anymore. Despite later confessing that he and his wife had an abortion early in their relationship, Larry,
Yeah.
Robinson said in 2021 that once a woman is pregnant, it is not her body anymore. He also disagreed that exceptions of the R word and incest in abortion bans, implying that victims of assault deserve what happened to them under Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest evolutionary theory, which is hypocrisy all by itself because he is a man of God and don't believe in evolution until it's convenient for his hypocritical ass. Larry, the floor is yours. This is another reason why, ladies and gentlemen, it is important that you vote blue.
You know, one reason why I picked this topic is because I have mixed feelings about this, and
I know.
It's not necessarily in my opposition to abortion or being pro. You know, I'm not pro or for it. I believe it is a personal choice. My thing about it, not about a woman's body not being her body solely, is that I believe that if you are pregnant with a man's child, that you should have, and I say a man's child because there are instances where women get artificially inseminated, and even though it's from a man's, seed, it's not like he actually impregnated you. So when I say is if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or whatever, and you get pregnant, I believe that decision should be up to both people, because if the man is saying, hey, I want the baby, and the woman is saying no, well, he kind of doesn't have any say, and his child is just, his child is just gone, and she can abort it. And at the same time, if he gets a woman pregnant and he's like, no, I don't want to have a baby, she could just say, too bad, I don't really care. And now he has a baby that he didn't want, and he's stuck having to take care of a baby for the next rest of his life, since most kids outlive their parents, And so I really believe that you should have some say. And also on the other part too is it's there's some hypocrisy in the whole thing about a child isn't a person yet, but then at the same time, if someone kills a woman who's pregnant, they can charge that person with double homicide. So I really feel like there's some hypocrisy going on in our laws that need to be figured out and worked out. But as far as just basically saying that it's not her body and that there's no exceptions for rape or incest and all of that, that to me, that doesn't even seem like stuff that is based in and real, like, sort of rational logic, or it just seems like that's just cruelty based. That's really what it feels like. It's just policy based on cruelty, because it's like, if you have a child that, and I know I've seen this happen in families and other people, you have a child that's not wanted. You have a child that's born out of incest or born out of a sexual assault or born out of some other sort of, terrible thing. And what happens is that child is, for the rest of their life, at least with that parent, always going to have, it's not every parent, but some of them, they're not loved. They're not loved in the way that other kids are loved, because oftentimes there are a constant reminder of that trauma. And so sometimes the parents just simply don't want them and just say, give them away, adopt them, drop them off at a fire station or whatever, or hand them off to another family member or whatever, but they are not loved in the way that most kids are generally loved. And that's not good for society, because kids who are not loved become adults with all kinds of problems. Either they become adults that have criminalistic behaviors, or kids who have mental health problems, or just are bad citizens because they're not productive. They have substance abuse issues. It's not good for society to have kids who are growing up unloved, or not loved in the way normal kids are loved. And so if somebody wants an abortion because of an essay or incest or whatever, let them have it. Let them have it. The Republicans are always talking about taking government out of people's lives and shrinking government. Well, how about, if you want to stay out of my life, how about you stay out of the most intimate parts of my life?
Exactly. Yeah. So, Larry, I'm not going to go through all this bull job, but ladies and gentlemen, I listed them, and we don't need to recite BS. So I'm only gonna read 2 of this bull job. I'm not gonna read the. Go ahead.
The reason why I didn't want to talk about the Michelle Obama thing is because that is one of those old racist tropes about black women, that they're masculine, that they're like men, that they're all that foolishness. And it's really shameful that it's coming from the mouth of a black man. That's just really, really shameful. If this had come from some racist white dude, not like I would want to talk about it anymore, but I would kind of understand. He's an old racist white dude. That's what they do. But this is not. This is a younger black man, and he's trying to curry favor with white people, by reciting racist tropes.
Here's the problem, even with that, Larry. Them white dudes that be trying to besmirch the image of black women are the same fuckers that go to brothels and get black women that they want to dominate them.
Right.
Same one.
Right.
So here's another one from our great lieutenant governor, which y'all need to encourage people. As much as you encourage people to vote blue in the federal, tell your friends, cousins, aunties, uncles, friends that live in North Carolina, get your butt out there and vote against this bum. This is what he said about Hitler, Larry. Can't make this stuff up. I mean, just self-hate is what it sounds like. Here we go. It's time to start reading quotes from Hitler and Stalin. Now, mind you, Larry, in the last segment, we talked about fascism, dictators. We talked about all that stuff. Republicans are always used to, back in the day, try to say that's what the Democrats want. Democrats want all that shit. Democrats want socialism and all that stuff. This man is saying, start reading quotes from Hitler and Stalin. Here we go. Robinson told an audience gathered at Moms for Liberty, blessing of the Liberty Breakfast in July last year, that instead of criticizing the conservative group for quoting Hitler in their June newsletter, it's time to start reading quotes from fascist strongmen like Hitler and Stalin. Whether you're talking about Adolf Hitler, whether you're talking about Chair Mao, whether you're talking about Stalin, whether you're talking about Pol Pot, whether you're talking about Castro in Cuba, or whether you're talking about a dozen other despots all around the globe, it's time to go get back and start reading some of those quotes he said. My issue with that, Larry, just saying that, he's trying to be vague, right? He's trying to use nationalistic jargon to sound like he's saying some shit, but he's really saying nothing. But I'm just going to bend the knee as a black guy to the well-doing of white people, and hopefully they'll take care of me too. What say you, Larry?
I'll say this. This is first of all, I have no problem with people reading history. I have no problem with people learning and understanding history. If you want to learn and understand how terrible Hitler and Stalin and Pol Pot and Mao were, then you have to read history about them. But you don't have to go and read the propaganda in such a way that you are trying to indoctrinate yourself. And And if you look at this list, if you look at anybody who's out there sort of idolizing or romanticizing any of these men, and you look at Adolf Hitler and Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot, one thing that all of these men have in common is that they killed millions of their own people. Millions and millions of their own people. We're not talking about people who said, oh, let's go over to some other country, conquer them, and we'll kill millions in the process. No, they killed millions and millions of their own people at home so that they can secure and maintain power. That's what it was. And so if you are romanticizing having some sort of strong man, just imagine when you have death camps in the corner of your town, when you have the shopping mall has turned into basically a big burn pit because they're killing thousands of people in your area. And that's what happened in all different types of places across Russia, across Southeast Asia, across, Germany and other parts of Europe as they were dealing with the Nazi regime. I mean, I don't think people understand how horribly and brutal. That's a part of the reason why it's so terrible with this history and not being taught the way it used to be. People don't fully understand how horrible and brutal war is. And that's why so many parents get upset. They send their kids to college and their kids come home and they say, oh, we didn't send our kids to college to become a bunch of flaming liberals. No, your kids are not flaming liberals. What happened is you sent them to college and they actually got to see real history. They got to learn real history that's not watered down. They got to see the pictures. They got to read the accounts of it. They got to see what really happened. Instead of just the glossed over, watered down 2 pages in a whole semester type of situation, they got to go in depth with it and see how horrible and ugly it is and how terrible war is. I mean, people keep talking about a civil war. People don't understand how horribly brutal war is, especially civil wars. Those are the worst wars. You don't know if you're going to be safe going to the grocery store and back. You don't know if your neighbor has turned on you or not. You just, I mean, I do not want, and this is one of those things, I think John McCain said it a long time ago. He was like, anybody who has gone to war will do everything that they can to prevent one. They're not up there encouraging anybody going to conflict because they know how brutal it is. And
exactly.
And I am of the mindset that I do not need to learn every lesson the hard way. I just don't. I understand some people say, oh, you're just going to have to learn it the hard way. I don't need to learn every lesson the hard way. I don't need to know that war is. I've seen enough images of war to know that I don't want any parts of it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, post your comments about North Carolina's lieutenant governor who didn't back down from none of the stuff he said, disenfranchising Jews. He didn't back down from nothing. Post your comments. Make sure you tell your people don't vote for this guy. Don't vote for this guy. Lord have mercy.
I just want to say one thing and one last thing. I just want to put this question out there. If for all the people out there that are thinking that civil war is what's needed, we need to have some sort of cleansing. I keep hearing stuff like that. If you look around our country and you see how fragile our youth are, and you see them, how they break down and want to kill themselves and go on shootouts and go and basically lose their minds over social media posts. If they can't handle the stress of social media posts, can you imagine how they are going to crumble under the weight of a war? Can you imagine how they're going to crumble when they know that at any given moment, their life could be over, their families' lives could be over, and there's bullets buzzing over heads and on their sides, and they're watching their buddies getting shot to death and their legs ripped off? Can you imagine how they're going to handle that when they can't even handle a social media post? We have raised a generation, maybe two, that are not equipped to deal with the rigors of a violent life like that. And you look at other places in this world where they are basically saying, like, if you look at China, we're up there using all these Chinese social media apps like TikTok and whatnot, and just up there losing our minds. And people are having, China, on the other hand, is saying you can only use those apps for 1 hour a day. If you're a kid and you're under a certain age, you can only use those apps for 1 hour a day. You can only play games for 1 hour a day, and the apps those apps automatically shut off on your phone. And they can do that because they live in basically a dictatorship, so they can do whatever the hell they want to do. Whereas here, we don't have that luxury, or that I don't even want to call it luxury. We don't have that ability to shut people down like that. But what happens is, they can raise people, they can raise kids with a sense of toughness. They can raise kids in such a way where they understand we're going to have to take orders and do things we don't want to do. You know, we don't have that here. Our kids aren't ready. But they seem like they want that smoke. They're believing the hype that American exceptionalism is going to just come out of, is just going to be magically there. American exceptionalism has come from the people. It is not some magic thing that has come about. It is only, whenever it existed, it only existed because of the people. And if you're not exceptional, don't expect any American exceptionalism coming your way.
Post your comments about Mark Robinson. Let us know what you think. He's horrible. He thinks he's a black coming of Trump. Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, let's keep him as far away from that office as we can. Last and final subject, but let me shout out Biden still riding. He's decided he's going to run. I'm not scared. I probably would, as long as we have a competent vice president to back him up, nothing bothers me with voting for Biden. But there's something that has come up with Trump that he's trying to run away from. And he's trying to position that he's got his own damn plan versus what we know is really the plan. Me and Larry last week, we spoke about Project 2025 and all the evil, nasty, dictatorly, fascist type of stuff that was in those pages. Well, they recently asked Trump this week, how does he feel about it? He said he's never heard of it. And in reference, his handlers are telling you he's got his own program called Trump 47 Agenda. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that the Trump 47 Agenda is nothing but Project 2025, missing an I, T's not crossed. It's the same gravy, just warmed over, and they spray it down with another smell. Here's a video that gives you a comparison. So sit on back, y'all, because we're going to break down this shit deep. It's about 4 minutes of all the comparisons between Trump's program and Project 2025. Here we go.
The first one is federal workforce. Agenda 47 says reissuing Schedule F to reclassify federal employees as at-will employees, making it easier to fire them. Loyalist strategy. Project 2025 says proposes reclassifying federal employees to facilitate their removal and ensure loyalty. That's the same thing. The next one is executive power, expanding executive power by consolidating control over the federal bureaucracy. That's what it says in Agenda 47. In Project 2025, it says concentrating power in the executive branch and purging career civil servants. We've heard about the number, roughly 50,000 people. The next one is immigration. And in Agenda 47, it says enacting strict immigration policies, including mass deportations and border security measures. That's Agenda 47. In Project 2025, it says implementing the largest domestic deportation operation in U.S. history and enhancing border security. Under education, Agenda 47 says eliminating the Department of Education and promoting school choice through vouchers. That means two things. The Department of Education protects special education, for one thing, and school vouchers means privatization. So that's Agenda 47. Project 2025 says removing federal oversight of education and promoting school vouchers. Exactly the same. Under deregulation, it says rolling back regulations on businesses and reducing environmental protections. That's Agenda 47. Project 2025 says dismantling environmental regulations and promoting fossil fuel interests. Literally, that's our land, air, and water. Under civil rights, it says rolling back protections for LGBTQ individuals and restricting gender-affirming care. Not a surprise. Project 2025 says eliminating anti-discrimination protections and banning gender-affirming care. No surprise. Healthcare, expanding Medicare Advantage and reducing government involvement in healthcare. That's privatization. That's what Agenda 47 says, and under Project 2025, it actually says promoting privatized healthcare options and reducing government healthcare programs. Medicare, Medicaid. Under abortion and contraception, Agenda 47 says restricting access to abortion and contraception. Again, that's a national goal, not a state goal. Where are my states' rights, people? Under Project 2025, it says implementing federal laws against mailing abortion pills, that's Plan B, and restricting access to contraception. We all know what that is, right? Under law enforcement, it says increasing funding and support for law enforcement agencies and defund the FBI. That's Agenda 47. Under Project 2025, it says proposing significant changes to the DOJ and the FBI, focusing on loyalty and alignment with executive priorities. Essentially the same plan. The sources for this information is donaldjtrump.com for Agenda 47 and the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 page itself. Secondly, I wanted to point something out. Project 2025 has significant cuts for veterans, literally in the hundreds of millions of dollars, specifically around retirement and disability pay. I hope veterans are paying attention.
What's the difference, Larry? It's the same damn thing. It's just that Project 2025 was written by more wordsmithy people than Trump 47 shit that was, 3 lines. But it's the same evil, burn down the government, replace it with the rich class, with the owner power class. Bull jive. Get rid of the DOJ. Get rid of the Department of Education. Privatizing schools. How has privatizing jails worked out? Nobody likes that shit. When 75% of what's in prison is black people, but this country is only 13% black people. Let that sink in. Cuts to the veterans. Nobody want to hear about that shit when this is supposed to be the party that loves its soldiers and its veterans and all that. Larry, how many times did we get up here when Trump was in office and talk about the dastardly things that they was doing to the veterans and the people in the military? At least 5. At least 5.
And
so, Larry, give me your opinion on this 47 versus Project 2025. It's just some bullshit. Not to mention both of them trampling on women's reproductive rights.
Well, it seems to me as if basically, we all know Trump does not like to share. He doesn't like to share, period. He doesn't like to share. Right. He doesn't like to share credit. He doesn't like to share power. He doesn't want to share anything. And if the Heritage Foundation, they come out with this Project 2025, Trump's just going to say, you know what? Let's just come out with some bullet points, some abbreviated bullet points, and we'll call it Project 47 or whatever they're going to call it. And that's all it is. And maybe the Heritage people are like, some of them are probably like, hey, they stole our stuff. But some of them are probably like, we don't really care what they call it. if they're going to enact our agenda, we don't really care what they call it. If they're going to do what we want done, then let them do it and call it, Trump 47. That's great. Or product, because if it all goes awry and the public hates it, we can throw it all on him and say that wasn't ours. Ours was Project 25. We had something different, And if it all works out great, they can turn around and say, hey, those were our ideas. He just adopted them. So there's no real, on some level, as long as the people the people who wrote this and want credit for it, as long as the insider baseball people know who they are, so they can continue to get their jobs and their consulting gigs and their appointments. I'm sure most of them don't care. They don't need to have their name on the document. They just want the policies enacted. So,
right.
But some of this stuff is so utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, man.
And damaging. Like, just here's the thing. The Republicans are often talking about getting rid of the Department of Education. And one thing that they still don't talk about and haven't figured out is, how do you then administer the programs that the Department of Education currently administers? How do you handle the work that the Department of Education currently does? Because if you're going to have school vouchers, who's going to manage those vouchers? Who's going to manage the say, okay, this particular school is accredited and this school is not? How are you going to handle the approval of an accreditation process or accreditation system? Who's going to manage student loans? And if you don't have student loans and you say, okay, well, if you can't afford to go to school, you don't go to school, you become uneducated. Well, then how do we compete with the rest of the world? How do we compete against countries like China and India, who have 3-4 times our population? You look at countries like China and India, they have more military age males than we have people. They are putting out more engineers and more AI specialists than we are putting out college graduates. Literally, they're putting out more people in single fields than we are putting out people all together. So if you're basically saying we're not going to go ahead and educate people who can't afford it, then we end up with a country that is way, way behind the 8 ball. And then we end up very, very vulnerable, because now all of a sudden our innovation and everything else is slow to a trickle, and we're dependent on other people. And we end up putting ourselves in a very vulnerable position because other countries become more powerful and have intellectual properties that we just can't compete or even understand it. So.
Well, Larry, to your point, and then I'll let you finish, and then we'll do the call to action. To your point, the dumbing down of the country is what got us in the place to be with Trump in the first fucking place.
Yeah.
That's how we got there. Because it seems like this whole video has been more so about education than politics. Like Larry said in the last segment, you need to know your education. You don't just need to know American history. You need to know world history. Yes, it's great to know the American history, but understand where the American history comes from. Understand what it looks like to have a dictator being put in office. Understand what it looks like when people who've been in concentration camps that are still living tell you how they felt, and they're telling you that they're seeing the same type of stuff being put in place now because education is not telling the truth. Floor is yours again, Larry.
And when people hear concentration camps, they always think about Nazi Germany and the Jews, and people think, oh, that can't happen here. This is America. But it did happen here. It happened here in World War II when they put Japanese people in concentration camps. There were Japanese Americans in this country that were put into concentration camps. And so it is very, very likely that this could happen, and I think people need to understand this. They need to realize it. And here's the other thing. I know Trump is he's such, I hate to say this because I don't want to sort of try and minimize but he acts so much like a child at times. Like he's so
yeah.
upset. He's so upset with the FBI and DOJ. Oh, the DOJ. Oh, FBI, they're coming after me. They're investigating this. They came into my place of Mar-a-Lago, defund the FBI. Remember just a couple years ago when the Republicans were all up in the Democrats' ass about the defund the police slogan?
Yes.
And they were not talking about getting rid of the police. They were talking about revamping the police. They are actually talking about getting rid of the FBI. They're talking about defunding it so that they can abolish. They want to get rid of the FBI. And they can now. You can the Trump people could be mad that they went over there and they went to Mar-a-Lago and they whatever, all that. But the FBI does so much more. When you wake up and you go to the shopping mall and you leave and you're safe,
right?
And then you find out later, oh, there was a threat where somebody was going to shoot up the mall, or there was a threat because there was some terrorist cell that was planning on blowing up a local movie theater or whatever. Guess what? That's the FBI. That's
all
the
day.
FBI doing all that investigative work. That's the FBI putting undercover officers in real harm's way so that they can go and get the evidence that they need and make the arrest that they need to make. You don't have those people at work because they've been defunded. Guess what? You're going to give terrorists free reign to do what they want to do. You're going to give the cartels free reign to do what they want to do. You're going to give all these drug dealers, arms dealers. You're going to give these militia groups. You're going to give gangs. You're going to give. It is just almost unbelievable when you look at the FBI and all these different groups, these action groups and task force, how much they are in the criminal world holding that stuff down. I mean, you think about certain areas, the FBI is out there keeping motorcycle gangs in check because they are out there running amok. You think that things are going to be fine. You go ahead and you take all the money away from the FBI. You know who doesn't have money taken away from them? Those damn cartels down south. The ones that people are all worried about across the border. Guess what? When you don't have the FBI investigating those people, guess what they have? Billions and billions and billions of dollars, and nobody on the other side that's going to play defense because they've been defunded. That's what happens.
Wait a minute, Larry. Wait a minute, Larry. We don't need them because America is the only country where 20% of the country's population owns 80% of the arms. So why do Project 2025 constituents and 47 agenda constituents need those things when those regular people with their guns and their 6-shooters are going to take care of all that shit for us? Like, we don't need that shit. We're going to take care of it. But here's the problem, Larry. They'll
come for those guns too. They'll come for those guns eventually.
Larry, who's going to take care of the regular folk when it's time to come for them guns?
They're going to come. They'll just come and take them.
Or this one, Larry.
The Democrats aren't going to take your guns. The Democrats can talk about regulation and wanting to slow gun purchases and make certain guns illegal, but it's going to be an authoritarian government on the right that's going to come take your guns. Those are going to be the ones that take your guns because they're going to need to disarm you so they can fully control you. And that's just what it is. That's just history. You can just look around the world and see anytime they want to control a government, a population, the first thing they have to do is, one of the first things they have to do is try to change their thinking and control their minds. And then that's called
religion. That's called getting their mind with religion.
Then they take away their ability to defend themselves.
Right. And even before they get that, they start doing this mess Trump has his people doing, taking away your ability to rationally think.
Right.
Larry, I like to end our political segments by doing a call to action. And this last segment, ladies and gentlemen, was the 47 agenda versus Project 2025. What they both plan to do is the same damn thing. But my call to action to you over the next week, you need to understand what is it that the Democrats are planning to do if they get back in office. Because you will find someone on these Trump streets, and ladies and gentlemen, I trust you. Trust me, they are not that bright. They're not. They will, and I can tell you when they're arguing with you, they'll say, well, what the hell are the Democrats going to do? Whenever they get into what about isms, just know that they don't know nothing else. That you're at the end of their road. Well, you tell them these are some of the agendas and goals for the Democrats. Lamont's got them for you. Economic reforms. The Democrats are committed to building an economy that benefits everyone, focusing on lowering costs for working families and boosting the middle class, includes efforts that create fair economic opportunities and addresses economic inequalities. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to paraphrase for you. 10% of the people in America own about 70% of the wealth. Something is not right with that, and they're trying to leverage that. Number 2, healthcare. Universal, affordable, and quality healthcare remains a cornerstone of the Democratic platform, emphasizing that healthcare should be a right for all, not a privilege. 100% agree with that. The countries that have universal healthcare have some of the best health statistics in the world, with America having the shit that we have, having some of the worst health statistics and longevity of life. Next, criminal justice reform. Efforts to reform the criminal justice system are aimed at protecting communities and building trust, highlighting the need for more just and effective law enforcement practices, which Larry just touched on when the term defunding police came out. They wasn't literally talking about taking away the police money. They was talking about allocating money for a mental health situation where you don't need an armed police officer to step in. Putting money in place for the homeless, because just about everybody that's homeless has some mental health issues that they need to work on. That's what we're talking about here. Climate change and environmental justice. You heard in that Project 2025 and that 47 bull job, they want to go back to fucking fossil fuel. Larry, I got to let you see my face. They want to go back to damn fossil fuels, ladies and gentlemen. Destroy the earth, pollute the air. You can't bring back fossil fuels. Why not continue to work on renewable sources of energy so that we can continue to build the technology that can power us and get us to the next galaxy when the time comes that our sun is going to turn into a red giant? Oh, no, we can't do that shit. So here, combating the climate crisis and advocating for environmental justice are critical parts of the agenda. The party aims to take bold action to address environmental issues and ensure a sustainable future. I don't know if y'all was paying attention, but the earth is melting ice at the ice caps like water falls into a pool when a fat person jump in. And this June was the hottest June on record. Yeah. Last but not least, education. This is important. Providing world-class education in every zip code is a priority. Zip code is important, people, because when you have poor communities that don't receive a lot of tax money, sometimes their education can be skipped on because they start stripping away the money that's allocated to those zip codes. Ensuring that all children and adults have access to quality education, resources, and opportunities. And one thing they didn't put up there is access and payment for early child care education. China starts their kids out almost the minute them bitches can walk in early child care. I don't know why we're not doing it. Democracy and governance. Strengthening democracy and enhancing participation in the democratic process as seen as fundamental. This includes protecting the rights of voters and making the government more accountable and transparent. That is the complete opposite of what them two other agendas want to do. They don't want you in the process. They don't want the people and the will of the people to rule. How does it feel to know that the Supreme Court just made a minority ruling when the majority of the country is against what they said? Doesn't feel good, does it? No. That's why you got to understand what the Dems is doing. Last but not least, immigration. Creating a comprehensive 21st century immigration system that respects the rights of individuals while addressing the needs of the nation is also on the agenda. Now, they've been trying to, I'm sick of the term comprehensive. I know some of y'all hear that, you roll your eyes. I do too. But there is no catchy 3-word, you're as dumb as a Trump voter way to say that immigration is a tough subject. You can't put that down to a melody or rhyme. It is a arduous process. And comprehension is just saying that it's a big process. There's levels to it. Some kids get here, you're a citizen, and your parents is on the other side of the fence and they make it over here, they're not a citizen. You want to take those families and throw them back over there? The ones who's escaping persecution. Or here's the one Trump and them like, Larry. Trump and them like the foreigners that come over here from the website Cherry Blossom, where you're going to be a Vietnamese woman marrying a white guy and be told to do whatever he wants you to do. They like those. But you don't like the brown people trying to escape persecution. You don't really mind the folks coming from the north in Canada that want to become Americans. You don't mind that shit either. All of them go through, the ones in Canada have a system that they have to go through that is not easy. We need to make that system a little bit more easy, a little bit more transparent, and a better process so that people can come here and continue to make America the melting pot, the greatest nation that we all claim it to be. Floor is yours, Larry, with any last points you want to say. But that's what the Dems are doing. Go tell your people exactly what the Dems are doing. That is my call to action to you on this day.
You know, this is, I think that one of the things, especially with immigration, when I think it's vital that we keep families together. I mean, It seems to me the Republicans are always talking about family stuff. It seems to be counter to their own belief system, their own worldviews to break up families. But even more importantly, as a matter of, and a lot of this stuff to me, I think ties into national security. If you have a child that is an American citizen and can move freely in and out of this country, and then you have parents who are not citizens, and you force this child to now live outside the country with his or her parents, this child is going to grow up in another country with this other country's beliefs and this other country's ideals, and then they're going to be able to come back into America with all of that, and those ideas and those beliefs may not mesh with ours. And now you have a person here, or people, because there's going to be lots of them, who may not like America and may not want America to be a certain way, and yet they have the freedom and the privilege and the rights to be here and do what they want to do in this country because they're American citizens. Whereas if you just simply, and this causes problems because maybe they do things the right way and they say, hey, I'm going into politics to change things. Maybe they don't. Maybe they decide they want to blow some stuff up. Maybe they decide that they want to go shoot some people. Maybe they decide they want to do something else that is anti-American, but they have the right to be here and to do it, and you're not going to be able to stop them unless you catch them. And if you take those people, you take those young kids and their family, and you say, you know what? This is an American citizen. They need their parents. The parents can stay along with the kids. And there you go. Now those kids are grown up. They're going to our public schools. And for those of you who don't know, one of the main functions of our public school system is indoctrination into the American way. And so you send these kids to schools, they become indoctrinated with the American way. And you don't have to worry about those people being overly influenced by foreign ideas and foreign agendas and foreign policies. The other thing is when you start talking about getting rid of education and getting rid of healthcare, I mean, those to me are also those are national security issues, because right now, the vast majority of young people in this country cannot just say, I'm going to the military, walk in and pass the physical fitness test and go to basic training and graduate. They can't do it. Most of them are not in good enough physical shape to actually do that. And that to me is a national security issue. If we needed to go to war, if someone attacked us and we had to call for a draft, the vast majority of the young people that we would call would not be physically capable of becoming soldiers or sailors or Marines or airmen or coasties. they wouldn't be able to do it because they would not be physically capable. And so having good health care helps that. Teaching people how to eat, making sure people can breathe if you have respiratory issues, and getting that stuff managed. Telling people like, hey, yeah, let's go ahead and get your orthotics in your shoes so that when you're 5 years old, so you grow up with proper arches so that you can run, so that you can walk, so that your knees aren't bent in. All this stuff that people don't always think about. But these are things that can affect you as a nation when you don't have enough young people to defend the country. People, I'm 55 years old just about. I'm 50, I'm 53. I'll be 54 in 2 days. You know, they don't want me. They do not want me on the battlefield worrying if I'm going to have a damn heart attack. They do not want me. They want these 18 and 19-year-olds out there that can run in the heat forever, you know? But most of them today, they can't. They can't do it. I could probably pass the physical fitness test for the military probably quicker than they could. And I'm an old man, you know? So I think some of these issues with healthcare, they're national security issues. When you look at education, I mean, everything is getting more and more technologically advanced, and we're going to need people who understand how to work and navigate those systems, and how to continue to expand those systems. And we can't simply offshore those jobs. If you're worried about how someone's going to build our next weapon systems, well, we can't have those jobs sent out to India or China if those may be our adversaries. We need to have that stuff here. And if we don't have enough people that can do those jobs because they're not educated, then we have more national security issues. I mean, I understand that they want people dumbed down and they want people locked into a certain belief, but at some point you have to say, we're going to go ahead and trust that we can educate people and they're going to still want to be good Americans. And one way to make sure people want to be good Americans is make America good. So people want to participate in being an American, you know?
Make America good again, ladies and gentlemen. Make it good again. Having said that, y'all, we're going to get out of here. Please don't forget to like the video, comment, subscribe. Big birthday shout out to my boy Larry, who don't look a day past 39, ladies and gentlemen. Birthday coming up. Shares a birthday with both of my kids. Their birthdays is in July. Anything special you're going to do for your birthday, Larry? And what is your Cash App so the people can send you some living legend money?
Oh man, Cash App. Let's see, what is my? I think it's Today I Feel Like. Actually, it is. I think it's just Today I Feel Like.
I'm going to put his Cash App in the comment section real quick.
Yep. Today I Feel Like.
Today I feel like. Y'all go ahead and send that brother a couple of birthday dollars. The man done found a fountain of youth juice, ladies and gentlemen. The boy just told us he is about 6 years away from getting Social Security, and he don't look a day past 39, ladies and gentlemen. What you got going on, Larry?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm thinking about buying a camera for myself. That's what I was thinking about doing, you know. I was thinking about maybe going and buying myself a new camera. Part of me is like, it's for work, so it's not really a birthday gift, but you know, it's kind of it would be nice to have one. I need a new one, and I guess it'd be a good time to get one. So, you know, I feel like if anybody wants to support, please do, because anybody out there who knows how much professional cameras cost, they're a couple grand. So
yeah, man.
I have an old one. I have one of my old ones I can trade in for about $1,000, and then I figured I'd pull $1,000 out of savings. So I needed to figure out where I'm gonna get the other $1,000 from. So I'll figure it out. But you know, but yeah, tomorrow, I don't know. I don't really have any plans. I was thinking about actually maybe tomorrow doing one of my Wine and Winners giveaway shows. I figured what better way to celebrate my birthday by giving people stuff rather than you know, maybe I figure it's better to give than to receive. So maybe I figure I'll have a Wine and Winner show and give some gifts away. So we'll see.
Well, you do that, Larry, and then some people are going to have that same mindset of it's better to give than to receive, and they might decide to give you some ends on that new piece of equipment because they feel like you give them so much back in your voice, your work, your creativity, and your knowledge of governance and history. So there you go. Best of both worlds.
That would be
All right.
fantastic, man.
So y'all come check my brother out tomorrow.
In any case, I'm still glad to be here for another year.
Same here, man. Happy to have you. Don't forget to like this video, y'all. Comment, subscribe, get that life gain. Who knows when I'll be back? Probably Monday. I might post some regular videos, just drop in videos. Y'all might catch me on B. Avery channel on Sunday. If the dude to have me, he's doing his show, I might pop up over there. But anytime y'all need to reach me, Twitter, TikTok, download the podcast, Instagram, send me some messages. I'll be here. Keep the notifications on. To that next video, we out.
Peace.